It's nothing to do with worldly peace, but it's a peace beyond understanding. It's a peace that's at the very core of our souls, that no matter what happens, as followers of Jesus Christ, we have a peace that we know who God is. Hello, Grace family, and welcome back to our midweek check-in. So looking back at last Sunday, we were continuing on in our Transform series. We were in the book of 2 John and looked at verse 3, and we got to look at 3 certain promises in an uncertain world. That in living in truth and in love, we are promised grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, His Son. And so we talked a little bit about what those look like, what those are, and how we live within them. And so I wanted to meet with you in the middle of your week and talk a little bit more on the idea of peace. And it's not a peace, again, of like the day is done and all our work is done, now we have peace, or it's nothing to do with worldly peace, but it's a peace beyond understanding. It's a peace that's at the very core of our souls, that no matter what happens, as followers of Jesus Christ, we have a peace that we know who God is, we know what He's done, we know He is in control, we know He has sealed us for all eternity, He's sovereign over all things, and we get a small glimpse of who He is from an eternal perspective. There is a peace that is unshakable and unchanging. And so I just wanted to read a verse that talks about that a little bit more. This is Isaiah chapter 26, and it's verses 3 and 4. So verse 3 says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." And so just kind of going back to those 3 things that are promised, they're promised in truth and in love. So we get to experience them at their height when we're living a life of depending on the truth of God's Word, and we're in a community of believers where His love is flowing through us. And so this verse kind of reiterates that. It says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you." Well, our way to keep our minds fixed on Christ is to be in His Word, to be reminded of who He is. And as we're reminded of who He is, as that verse finishes, it says, "because He trusts you." And so I was thinking of a time recently that my family and I were out for a hike, and Caleb's almost 5 years old, but there was a little bit of a ledge, a little bit of a jump. He didn't want to walk over it. And so I came alongside of him and I picked him up, and then we walked over that together, but his whole demeanor changed. All of a sudden there was a little bit of, he didn't want to do it. He didn't think he could do it on his own. But as soon as his dad picked him up, because I had the ability to take that step, he was in a moment of peace because he trusted me. His mind was fixed on me. He knew I could do it. And so in a real similar way in our walk with Christ, there's so many things in life that this world throws our way that can kind of get our minds scattered and our eyes fixed on something other than Him. But when we spend time to put our mind on Him, His Word says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." And then verse 4 gives us a reason to trust in Him. It says, "Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord is an everlasting rock." And so I just want to encourage you. It's such a simple truth this week, but maybe you've been distracted by something. Maybe there's something that's come up that has made the ground of your life seem a little bit shaky. But remember, if your life is founded on the truth of God's Word, that He is a rock, He is unshakable, He is unchangeable, He is perfect in every way. And if we keep our mind on Him, that's where we live within that peace, and we're reminded of that peace that is promised to us. So I just want to encourage you in that. Know Him, trust Him, and live within and experience that peace this week. So if we look ahead to this next Sunday, remember the preaching team is going to be sharing, as it's the first Sunday of the month. This week will be my dad, Randy Vogel, will be sharing. He's going to be preaching on Hebrews chapter 10, verses 19 through 25. So if you want to read that ahead of time, study that ahead of time, come ready to worship our Father together, come ready to glorify His name, and learn from Hebrews chapter 10, and we'll look forward to doing that together. So you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy living within that peace, and we'll see you Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Thanks, church.